All right. I am pleased to have Pratebza. TBZ.
Yes,
The great
sir.
TBZ.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Welcome,
sir.
sir.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to join the podcast and finally have a proper conversation with you, my friend.
Sure, sure. Please introduce yourself and what you do.
So I'm Tebogo Mothiba. I am an engineer, an executive, a student, and a business person. And but what takes most of my time is obviously my professional career, which is being a quality manager.
Okay. So you are a mechanical engineer,
Yes, sir.
right? So what inspired you to go for mechanical engineering?
Oof. Inspiration. I think that's a very broad term. so so I think I've always, imagined myself in the engineering space. But when it comes to mechanical engineering in particular, I think the vision that I had of what it entails relative to what it actually is was completely different.
Sure, sure.
I mean, growing up as a kid, I always loved cars, and mechanical engineering sort of like sounded very close to that particular passion that I had. So that's why we went for mech eng. But it could have been anything else, to be honest. It could have
Sure.
been anything else.
I think we'll get to the part where you are still a student. But I'll try to slot it in some way in the conversation,
Yeah.
because that's also another part which is also interesting.
Yeah.
And we will get to talk about it. So, but the thing is, what now I just had the privilege of actually knowing what you actually do.
Yeah.
And I think it's at least close to what mechanical engineering looked like, in a sense, because you're still working with.
Yes, with automobiles.
Yes.
Yes, very
And then,
true.
did that maybe solve your love for cars?
To some extent.
Okay.
To some extent. So I'm a quality manager at a manufacturing facility, which is actually a foundry where we cast engine blocks for trucks. One of the big international brands, the one with a star. So we make those engine blocks, and I think in a way, there's that satisfaction that I get to be in a field that is involved in making these automobiles. However, where I'm actually practicing is not necessarily a space where mech eng is like number one. It's where metallurgy is number one.
Okay.
And I think in Cape Town we don't necessarily have courses that you can practice metallurgy or have a lot of metallurgists. But it was very interesting to almost start afresh in learning that particular side of engineering. And we've grown in that space since. Yeah.
So, so you at CPUT,
Yes, sir.
and then
Kaput.
So how was it studying at CPUT, and what is it that you did to make sure that you pass?
Ooh, I think it was quite tough. I mean, I started in 2011, and you can imagine growing up in Pretoria, that's at least 1,500 kilometers away, and you're coming to Cape Town where you don't necessarily have relatives, and your friends become your family. And I think creating a network of friends became, good friends that is, became, I think, a very good foundation to sort of stabilize yourself. and anchor yourself. When it comes to the actual academics, I mean, to be honest, I started off as a bartender in my first year.
Are you serious?
I kid you not. I
Okay.
started off as a waiter, then a bartender. So in my first year, I was basically dilly-dallying around studies and work to try and sustain yourself. And also, well, there was the financial challenges. There was the obviously being away from your support, and you're young, you're 18, and then there's this massive academic pressure that you have, and the course is not necessarily easy, but you have to overcome those challenges and always try to remember why you are actually here and push.
So, what were you doing? Was there anything specific that you were doing besides the what do you call this? Besides the push-ups and that I know why I'm here? Because I mean, like you just mentioned, now you're doing bartending, and you're actually studying.
Yeah,
that's like you're already doing a work. We say someone is actually working and they're doing their BTech, and it's showing the flames.
It does.
So it sounds like it's training. And then how are you juggling that?
I think you have to prioritize, and I think in anything that you do, you have to prioritize and make time. Sometimes there is no time, but you have to make time. I think also it also becomes very important to sort of try to have some sort of work-life balance.
Okay.
And I mean, at the time you don't know what that even means, but you sort of got into some kind of a rhythm to say, I'm in class from 8 o'clock till 3 or 8 o'clock till 4:30, 4:30 to 6. This is my free time or gym or whatever the case may be. But 7 o'clock till midnight, I'm at the library and IT center till 3 a.m. And then that's a cycle. Then Friday class ends at 1. 3 o'clock, I'm in Stellenbosch. 4 o'clock, I start at the bar. 4 o'clock till 11. Saturday, 8 to 3. Sunday, 8 to 3, knock off. So it became a rhythm.
So you had a routine already.
You get into a routine, you get into a rhythm. And the rhythm allows for you to cater for all the priorities.
Sure.
And obviously when there's exams and tests and stuff like that, you have to put certain things, a little bit back. Yeah.
I think I like that because I think people sometimes they hate the monotonousness of a rhythm.
Yes.
But it allows you to do all things that you want to do.
Absolutely.
And at least if you have like priorities, it allows you to prioritize things.
Absolutely.
It's quite interesting. I think at least maybe this is a takeaway home that have a rhythm.
Have a routine. But simultaneously, you must be cautious of the rhythm because
Sure.
Because sometimes life happens and it throws you off course. And if you are stuck on a particular routine, and you're thrown off course, you need to just remember to be a little bit flexible.
Sure.
And sort of, manage, manage where you are at that particular time.
Sure.
But a rhythm, 9 times out of 10, I find it to be effective.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, I would like to agree with you. The only way I could pass my electrical engineering is when I started having a rhythm.
Yeah.
And I realized that it seemed as if I was smart, but I just had a rhythm.
You just had
like you said, having class times, attending class.
Yes.
Going to gym.
Yes.
Fun enough, I had time to go to gym. After gym, I know I'm going to study.
Exactly.
Push 12 o'clock. I never cross night.
Exactly.
And
you start at a particular time.
Yes.
You stop at a particular time.
Rhythms are amazing.
Yeah.
But like you said, the trick is when the beat changes.
Yes.
And you need to be able to adjust accordingly. And the thing is, sometimes you are so comfortable and this gives you results.
Exactly.
But if the beat changes, you need to change.
Then you're like, oh my goodness, what
Yeah,
now?
sure.
What now?
I think I like that a lot.
I mean, I'm thinking now, probably in second year doing thermodynamics.
Sure.
I think in the latter part of second year, I sort of realized that I'm actually quite good in terms of studying on my own and absorbing information on my own compared to being in class.
Groups. Okay,
So
sure.
for me, being in class, sort of over time, I realized that there was not a lot of significant value. But when I study on my own, read on my own, practice on my own, obviously you need to be aware where the rest of the class is. But I managed to do well on my own, and there was a period where in afternoons I'd only start attending lectures from 1 o'clock onwards. So all my morning ones I did not attend.
Sure.
Because I also realized that I was quite comfortable studying past midnight. So pushing till 4 a.m., for example.
Okay, sure.
So my morning basically still,
It's your
fast
time to
asleep.
rest, yeah.
But I had this rhythm of, sitting in the library on the same chair, on the same window every single time. And before I open up the actual books, I'd start with the newspaper, go through the newspaper, get the mind, comfortable.
Stimulated, yeah.
Then quickly jump into the books
Sure.
whilst the juices are flowing. Push. When you feel like you're getting stuck, switch over to the newspaper, re-energize the mind, and then again. But, that was just, I think, a trick that I learned as time.
And I think it still speaks to rhythm.
Rhythm.
Rhythm is the best. I think the other thing that I'm actually noticing is self-awareness. What's the importance of self-awareness and being able, because the ability for you to skip classes, because that's skipping class.
It is.
Right? But it speaks to, because you have graduated, so
Yes.
it means that the formula that you used actually worked.
For me.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying, bringing the idea of self-awareness. How important is self-awareness to kind of like manage the life or the spaces that you're in?
I think it's crucial. It's probably the most important thing that you can ever do for yourself, to be aware of your strengths and your weaknesses. I remember in primary and in high school, they used to ask, what is your strength and weaknesses? And we never fully appreciated that question, right? But later on, you actually value, what they were trying to impart on you. To be self-aware, self-conscious is the most crucial thing, because that's how you identify your potential shortcomings and your strengths. And you work on the shortcomings and you sell your strengths.
I like that. I think maybe moving on to work now. So you're done with varsity, you've closed that chapter, then you get
Not
to
really.
work. Yeah, we're gonna get. So you get to the work chapter, right?
Yes.
And then, so you've worked in the same company since in-service training?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's nearly 9 years now.
9 years, yes.
9 years.
So 9 years is a lot, because you're almost a decade now working in the same company, right? So maybe, because I feel like there's a world of wisdom that you can actually share for us there. You're now executive.
Yes, sir.
From an intern to executive.
Yes.
So I want you to just explain all the stories, all the wisdom, and lessons that you can, lessons of like the gems of wisdom that you can give to get to a point where it's like, this is how I actually got to a point where I am now an executive.
Maybe let me start from the interview.
Okay.
Right. And maybe a little bit of background there. So I think I've been very fortunate to have been raised by parents who taught me how to be confident and how to always yearn to be the best that I ever can be.
Sure.
Example, you come back home, you show them your report, 8 out of 10, as an example, and they'll celebrate you, but they'll ask you, is this really the best that you can do?
Okay.
Not questioning you, not doubting you, not,
Not celebrating your win.
Yeah, not diminishing your win, but really asking you, do you think this is it? Like, this is the best? And sometimes you're like, yeah, hey, it was lit. That test was hard. But sometimes you're like, yeah, maybe that 9 could have been reachable. Maybe that 10 could have been reachable.
Sure.
So that is something that has always been embedded in me in a way.
This is primary and high school.
Yes.
Okay.
This is something that has always been embedded.
Sure.
So now, fast track to the interview. I had driven from Pretoria, so it's time for in-service training, and I didn't find anything. Then I go to Pretoria for school holidays, and whilst I'm there, I get a call from the company. They're like, on a Friday, they're like, can you be here on a Monday for the interview? I'm like, damn, that's wild.
Sure.
No, not a Monday, maybe Wednesday.
Sure.
And I make a plan, make my way back to Cape Town. And the morning of the interview, first of all, I don't even know this town in Cape Town, in Atlantis. I don't know where it is. So you're trying to Google, where is it? How do I get there? Yada, yada, yada. And I find out the best mode of transportation is a taxi. So from campus to Belleville, I'm inside a taxi, and this taxi is waiting at the rank for 4 hours. Sure. It's not moving, because no one goes to Atlantis. It's not moving. And I'm there in my suits and ties, and you're like edgy, you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna be late. The interview is 2:30. Sure. And eventually, 4 hours later, the taxi moves. Fine. We arrive in Atlantis, and I'm like, there's no factories here. Only to find out I need to be at the industrial side of Atlantis, which is some 10 kilometers away. Oof. I'm speaking with the driver. I need to get to this company. They're like, no, my friend. Get into my city or something like that. Sure. So fine. I struggle, can't get into my city because I don't have a card. So I start walking. So I walked between 7 and 9 kilometers. During the walk, weather changes. You know Cape Town. It starts raining.
Hey, man.
Pouring. My friend, I was wet.
With your suit?
With my suit, tie, I was wet, drenched, socks are wet, everything was wet. Sure. And I just kept on walking because I'm like, hey, I'm from Pretoria. It's too far to give up now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Walk. Weather changes.
Are you still on time this time?
I'm about an hour late. Okay. I'm about an hour late.
Sure.
During the walk, weather changes, you know, Cape Town. Sun comes out, and I start drying.
Okay.
During the walk.
Hectic.
Get to the company, interviewed by a panel. And funny enough, when I get, it's HR and 2 senior engineers who are interviewing me. That very same day, they interviewed another 5 candidates. And they wanted 2 people, they only employed 1, which was me. Okay. And after the interview, so all the nerves when I get there, they're dead. Sure. Because I'm like,
resilience,
I'm late.
Endurance,
yeah, sure. I'm late. I'm wet. I'm now damp. I've been through a lot to get here, and whatever happens, as long as I am there, and I'm going to do my best. Get there. They're shooting questions. Fine. During the interview, one of the things that, because remember, the only prior work experience that I had was being a waiter and a bartender. But the biggest selling point was actually that, being a waiter, being a bartender. Okay. Because what do? you engage with people,
clients. Yeah,
you
sure.
engage with customer, you establish work relationships.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is what set me apart the most. Never mind the technical aptitude, but
Yeah.
but you know, so fine. At the end of the interview, one of the interviewers tells me that 20 years ago, when he started in the organization, he had the very same experience. And what was very commendable is that I didn't give up. So, listeners, never, just keep on pushing. Present yourself, don't give up. So, become an intern. And during my internship years, so I was in the project engineering department, which is something that you don't necessarily learn a lot about in MacEng.
Sure.
And what that entailed was, you know, planning for projects, designing certain elements. So that's a little bit of the technical engineering part, designing certain elements of your project. And then the executing means managing suppliers, managing stakeholders, you know, managing your timelines, managing your budget. So it's a lot more focused, I think, on the project management commercial side of things than the heavy mechanical engineering.
Yeah. I just want to jump in there on that one.
Yeah.
I just had a conversation with Bonnie. He's a mechanical engineer.
Yeah.
He's in processing. He calls himself a process engineer.
Yeah.
And I think that's, in a sense, falls under project engineering as well.
No. Process engineering is a different spectrum. Yeah. Process engineering is basically focused on in controlling your process, designing your process, controlling your process to deliver an output.
Okay.
And what that process is depends on a whole broad spectrum
Different companies that you're working in.
Yeah.
And then project engineering.
Project engineering, as an example, you are running a company. This is the podcast company.
Sure.
You want to expand your business. You are a director though. So you set money aside and you're like, I want a bigger building, I want high-tech equipment, yada, yada, yada. But some of the elements of what you're trying to achieve is very technical and requires engineering knowledge.
Okay.
So with the budget that you've set aside, you're like, okay, I'm going to give it to the project engineering department. They need to plan this. They need to present a budget to me and present the technical design of all the elements that I want them to achieve.
Okay.
And deliver on time. And during the process, they're obviously speaking to contractors, builders, painters, yada, yada, yada. Who needs to come when?
Okay.
When do they start? When do they finish? So that the next person can jump in. The electricians need to, you know, so you're managing all of these fields, broad spectrum of engineering fields. And you're managing their workload, you're managing their resources, you're managing their budget. And they need to progress within the project so that you achieve your milestones. More importantly, you satisfy your customer, who's the director, who gave you the money.
Yeah, I think you just broke it down so well.
I tried.
You did very well. Because the thing is, because where I was going at is, I realized that it seems like mechanical engineers, most of them, it's like you guys work a lot with having to talk a lot with clients and making sure that the clients get like you. So at least now you've just given me like a way of understanding. Okay, there's a process side of it, and there's also the project engineering side of it.
Yeah. So in the very same example of a podcast company, the process engineer would be your technician who makes sure everything is plugged in, you know, the lights are on. Basically, whatever process that you do from start to finish of the podcast is written down and certain steps need to be done
Sure.
to achieve the end result.
Sure.
And you have a process engineer now, because obviously
So
in the
programming and
manufacturing
all the stuff,
space,
yeah.
in the manufacturing space, it's a lot more complex. You have a lot more variables that you
Sure.
need to manage.
Sure.
And you're also working with a lot of people. So you design your process to make sure that, you know, the outcome gets done every single time as per your design.
Okay. Okay. So is there anything that maybe you could advise? Maybe they will have to give us some money for this. Our dear CPT.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you could advise to improve the curriculum that speaks to this both these two process engineering and project engineering?
I think we have modules
Okay.
that expose you to these industries or these professions rather, but they are not majors. The majors are, you know, as I said,
Thermodynamics,
mechanical engineering, design, mathematics, thermodynamics, fluid mechanics,
Sure.
etc. It's electromechanics, you know, etc. Those are the majors. Those are,
Sure.
you know, what you want to ace.
Sure.
All these other ones we don't focus too much on. But when you get to the workplace, you find out that, hey man, what I studied and what I'm doing is inverse.
Yeah.
Case in point, when I got to the foundry, I realized that there was a module that I did, manufacturing engineering at CPT, and foundry was a short paragraph. One short paragraph.
Yeah.
In the whole
Manufacturing.
manufacturing engineering course, foundry was just one paragraph.
Sure.
And I get there, I'm like, oh my goodness, where do we even start?
Yeah.
You know, it's a whole massive industry. And foundry technology, again, as I mentioned, it's one of the oldest methods of manufacturing there is in the engineering space.
Okay.
So we don't, I don't think there is a solid alignment to industry practices in terms of emphasizing, you know, do this module to prepare you. We put a lot of emphasis on the majors.
Sure.
That's my feeling. That's the sense that I got.
No, I think I understand, but it's something which we're trying. That's the reason why we're having this podcast, to try to find ways that we can maybe have some form of partnership where we can say, guys, these are the guys who are actually doing the work, and they say that, okay, try to include this, because when we get to work, we are inept. It's like we have to start over again.
Yeah.
But you want someone who's coming from varsity to at least have an idea of what they're going to be doing.
Yeah. I think also we can't critique too much, in that you must remember you have 24 months. And then 1 year is in-service training before you get your diploma.
Sure.
So in 24 months, there's a lot to learn about industry. So they compress it. And the fact that they made sure that, you know, industry experience is part of your learning. I think they did that in mind to bring the real life into your coursework, to create that alignment.
Sure.
And of course, you know, you can always go back and do your BTech and etc. But 24 months, personally, I think it's a very, very short period of time to learn a lot. And they can't teach you everything. They can't teach you everything in 24 months.
I'm trying to avoid a back and forth. For the sake of time, right?
Yes.
But I think I understand where you're coming from. To say that 24 months is not enough to do all that, and that 1 year for in-service training is also, because what happens most of the time is, I guess you're also a classical example for that. What job you get is what you latch on.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and if people are not careful of what job they get
stuck.
that means you get stuck in that area.
Yeah.
Because you cannot now say that I'm going to start doing aircon.
Very true. Very true.
And that's part of mechanical engineering.
Yes.
But you can't change.
But it's a small branch.
Exactly. So I think maybe to bring that part is, for those who are listening, is know where you want to work. That will, at least as you're studying, okay, I'm going to work in the food industry.
Yes.
I'm going to be working in the metallurgy side industry. I'm going to be working in the HVAC industry. Yes. That way, okay, I'm going to focus on these companies.
Yes.
And you're already specializing from varsity. By the time you get in there,
prepping for that.
Exactly. By the time you get to work, you are cut above the rest. Like you said, your bartender gave you an edge.
That edge.
Yes.
But I think also, and maybe we'll touch on it a little bit later on.
Sure.
We must remember that Kaspedi, when I translate it, it's like a man is not a tree.
Okay.
If you're not happy where you are, move.
Okay.
And it's a difficult thing.
It's very difficult.
It's a very difficult thing. But you're 100% right. Normally your first opportunity, your first door that opens, you sort of, get taken away in that space. But, when you are not happy, do something about it. Move. Again, we'll touch on it a little bit later on. During my internship, I realized that this project engineering, I could already see the ceiling at the time. I imagined the ceiling at the time. I didn't realize I'll be where I am now. But based on what I could imagine, I'm like, in 2-3 years, I'll be probably a project engineer, and then that's it in terms of growth. So I decided to study further, do something completely different, because I kept on imagining, man, before I wanted to be an engineer, I also thought about being a doctor, then being a lawyer. Okay, doctor I won't be, but a lawyer I can be. So what is stopping me from studying law?
Sure.
And we started.
You tempted me to get into the law. Let's do it like this. Let's finish up the project engineering.
Project engineering.
So you're doing project engineering, and what are you learning there?
Yeah.
And what are the technical side of project engineering, and how to be a best project engineer? To be a best project engineer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and I think maybe before you start, maybe you can also, after explaining that, you can also tap into getting into the different stage.
Yes.
So it's like you said, there was a ceiling.
Yes.
So when you move on to the next one.
How we bridge that gap.
Okay.
Yes. So during my internship, obviously you know nothing, to be honest. Yes, you have your 24 months in your pocket, but when you enter this type of space, you know nothing.
Yeah.
The only thing that you possess is the interpersonal skills that you have. And as I mentioned, one of the things that really, really helped me was being a waiter, being a bartender. So engaging with people. So in my internship, I have a mentor at work who's a senior project engineer. And I did a lot of the dirty work for him.
Sure.
Go measure this. Go speak to that person. Come during the weekend on Sunday. Go investigate this. Go do that. And I always wanted to do that because that's learning.
That's learning, yeah.
That's learning. That's exposure. And when you are hands-on, you also engage with the artisan. You also engage with the operator.
Yeah.
And you form relationships that will help you down the line. Now, what is down the line? Now you've done your planning, you've done your technical designs and technical proposals, and you're working with contractors to implement the project. Who's going to support you during the implementation?
Operators.
The operator, the artisan. Who's going to tell you if there's challenges in your design? The operator, the artisan. Which skill did you learn? Which skill did you use to form that relationship?
Interpersonal.
The interpersonal.
Yeah.
The relationship making. So coming back to the technical part, so a lot of the dirty work, hands-on, working with the civil engineers, the structural engineers to, design, your structures, to plan, what you want to implement, speaking to the OEMs, the original equipment manufacturers.
Okay.
Let's say you're buying a sand dry or something like that. You're speaking to people in France or in Germany or in Italy, and they're selling you a product. You need to understand this product on a technical, on a technical level, and how you're going to integrate that piece of machine locally. So it requires the mechanical engineering knowledge, the electrical, which sometimes you're not a specialist in it, but there's a specialist. How do you make sure that he contributes to the product, to the project relationship? And you bring all these stakeholders together and you're driving the focus, you're driving the project. And that's what I was learning during my internship. And post the internship, got into a junior engineer role where I was driving the projects myself, not having a senior to oversee me.
Sure.
And during that period, the projects just became bigger and bigger, both in terms of complexity and in terms of monies. I mean, from an internship, your project could be 2 million. Junior engineer, your project is worth 15 million, and it continues to grow.
Sure.
And one of the things that I just maintained throughout is making sure that you form the relationships, because it's very difficult to fight with your friend.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
It's very difficult to fight with your friend.
Sure.
And as part of the relationship building, so I'm now going to get to transitioning now to the executive role. So I became a junior engineer, senior engineer. And so during my internship, throughout, I had this habit of having lunch with members of the executive. Because you
Why
get to
not?
the canteen,
Yeah.
all the tables are full, and the manager's sitting alone. Although they, can I join you? Yeah. Have lunch.
You're discussing big projects.
No.
Okay.
Sports, politics, weather, name it.
So it's vibes.
Vibes. Talk about everything except work.
Yeah, yeah.
And that continued for many years. At the time, the now CEO who appointed me was still a senior manager at the time. One of the other directors was still just a junior, just a legal manager. And I used to have lunch with these guys. Why? You get to a meeting, it's heated. They're pinning the project engineers. Why aren't you doing? Why is this late? Let's say it's 10 o'clock.
Sure.
Pressing. Why? They get to you.
You hear the soft.
The tone is a little bit. Why? Because you're gonna have lunch together.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You're gonna have lunch together.
Yeah.
So these are some of the
and
the tricks or the benefits of creating the relationships.
Yeah. I think I like that. Your company is a big company, right?
It is.
The reason I'm saying that is there's a way you play politics in small companies and the way you play politics in big companies. And I think maybe for those who don't understand, in WA University, there's company politics.
Yes.
Which will always be there. And I think I like the thing that you are bringing in, which is you can't fight your friend.
You can't fight your friend. You can't fight your friend.
Yeah, even if you want the information done, but at least it's gonna be solved it won't be as hard. And
Yes.
you don't have to.
You'll get a kick,
Exactly.
but it won't be as bad as it won't be as bad as the other guy.
Yeah, yeah.
But to be honest, it was not it was not intended to gain favor. It was just
Just
forming
you being you.
a
Yeah, sure,
relationship,
sure.
and
It was genuine.
those were the benefits, I suppose.
Yeah.
So fast track to now you're a senior engineer, and you can see this is the ceiling, and there's executive roles opening up, and people think about you because why not? They know about you, they think about you, and when an opportunity opens up, I mean, you're still going to go through the normal hoops as everyone else.
Yeah.
But there's a benefit in knowing what type of person that individual is, who you're going to possibly report to.
Yeah.
You know their attention to detail or lack thereof. You know their interests. So during the qualifying stages, you can sort of work that inside information that you know.
I think that's what you talk about, the strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
So you end up knowing those strengths and weaknesses, and
Yeah.
it makes it easier to say, okay, this might be a weakness,
Yeah.
but it can always be worked on because
Yeah.
I already know the character of this person.
Yes, and to be honest, I mean, in CPUT, I was not really interested in student politics at the time, because the course was really tough, and we didn't really have a lot of time, because you knew if you join SASCO or PASMA, you're gonna fail. It was almost like a recipe for
Yeah.
failure.
Sure.
But one thing I've always known is a person is political.
Okay.
So whether you're in school, whether you're in the workplace, whether even in your family, a human being is a political being.
Okay.
Sometimes someone says, I hate politics. Yada, yada. That's a political statement. That's a political decision.
Sure.
And that's a political action. So even in the workplace, there's a hell of a lot of politics. And one of the things that is super, super important is creating the relationships. Good relationships. Good relationships. Good impressions, good relationships. Stakeholder relations. Keep in contact with people. Check on people. Because you never know when you will need someone like that. From the person who's cleaning to the security to whoever. Be a good person, relate with people.
Sure.
In the workplace. You don't have to be their friend. I possibly have no friends at work, but I have good relationships. Yeah.
I like that. So I think you're jumping into now getting into the position of
Quality manager.
Quality manager, right? And maybe just to give background, just tell us, okay, what were you doing in detail? And I think on project engineering, I don't know if there's any technical information you can give us in terms of, so because I know before this you were talking about how explaining the metallurgy side of it,
yes.
right? So I just wanted to know maybe if you can bring the technical side of it, if you can.
Okay.
But if there isn't, but I think that falls under quality, right?
So when it comes to project engineering, like I mentioned with the example of the company, and you're spearheading a project.
Yes.
And this project entails, so many technical elements like, structural, civil engineering design, mechanical engineering design, electrical design. Sometimes even, working with process engineers to say, if we're going to bring in this type of equipment, how do you envisage your process to be? Where does your process start? Where does it end? Do we need to do cycle time studies? Do we need to, look at agronomic studies? To make sure that when we implement this, we get the desired result.
Sure. So you're almost doing an industrial job as well. It's like everything
They-
all in one.
We used to joke and say, project engineer is a jack of all trades, master of nothing. Right?
Sure,
Because-
sure.
Because you're not an electrical engineer. You're not a specialist in
Sure,
electrical engineering.
sure.
But you know that this piece of machine that I bring requires so many volts, so many amps, such a long cable, yada yada yada. The electrician will do those things. Just give him the resources.
Sure.
Yeah, give him the resources, give him the time. He will do that for you.
There's a comment, yeah?
Structural engineer. I don't know civil engineering. I don't know structural engineering.
Sure.
But I know that I need a foundation 4 meters by 1 meter. It needs to be this deep to support this load. I'm not going to now design all of these things.
No.
Pay the guy, give him time, give him the resources. He'll do that for you.
Yeah.
But you're bringing all of these
professionals, yeah.
professions into one space, and you're directing that. And you're providing the resources, you're providing the time, and you're managing their resources, managing their time to deliver as per the milestones that you need to achieve.
I don't know if I should. Okay, let me start with this. There's a comment that was said that, am I being called? So there's a comment that has been made. This I had from a conversation when people were talking in a meeting. So they said, South Africans are very good professionals because they tend to be knowledgeable about many things in their work. So you might find that as an engineer, I already know about structural stuff. I already know about.
Yeah.
So that makes us like gold for European countries.
And we make plans.
Yes.
We make plans. We make plans.
Sure.
Yeah. So part of, and I know this because part of my travels, you get to one of my customers in the US or in Germany, and you ask for a simple thing like, can we please move that here? You know, you ask a forklift driver,
Sure.
can you please move that there? He'll tell you that's not part of his job scope. You're not gonna win.
And he doesn't even do it.
Nope.
Hectic.
Same thing in Germany. You have a technical issue. It'll take 3 weeks to get approval to start moving. In South Africa, we have a technical problem. We make plans.
Sure.
People are not going to go home up until this thing, up until we have a direction. At least.
Sure.
So
I guess it's the classic Afrikaner.
yeah, almost.
Yes.
Boeroe
Boere
maak 'n
make a plan.
yeah. No, we make
Interesting.
plans.
Sure.
We make plans. I mean, you look at some of the things that are happening in Kasi. You know, when there's an issue, we make a plan.
Sure.
We survive.
That's true.
We survive.
I think what the question that I feel like I asked the same question twice, but thank you so much for also touching, getting into more detail. So I wanted to get into the quality manager side.
Yes.
So maybe just explain that part and what you were doing there.
So being a big company and also a small company, because our shareholder is the multinational organization with probably over 40 or 50,000 employees globally.
Okay.
But we are about 900 in South Africa. And my role as quality manager, number one, is to be the voice of the customer. Who is the customer? So as I mentioned, we manufacture engine blocks or engine castings, which we ship to the US market and to the European market. And my role is to understand, obviously, know the customer, understand the customer, and be the voice of the customer. So I will travel to Germany, I'll travel to the US, and look at their process, understand their issues with my product, and come back to South Africa and explain it and solve the root cause in South Africa. So my fundamental role and responsibility as quality manager. Now, underlying that, I have a team that I work with. My department is 54 men strong, and in the department we look at the process audits and the product audits. So during the manufacturing process, we audit the process to ensure that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing based on this the work instruction.
You said the recipe.
Yes, there's a recipe. We audit that you're doing based on the recipe.
Sure.
That's the process side. But we also do the product audit. So whilst you're making this product, we're sampling and checking that it conforms to customer specifications.
Sure.
There's that element. I also head the metallurgical lab, where we do testing of process parameters. So we'll sample the sand that makes the mold, that makes the core. We'll sample the metal to make sure that it's conforming. We'll sample the raw materials that we use in production to make the product. We'll sample that it conforms to our product data sheets, and a whole long list of lab work. And then I also head the measuring room. The measuring room is a room, or it's almost like a lab, where we do the dimensional verifications of the product. Remember, inside your car, you don't want a too big of an engine or too small engine. You want it to be exactly how it's supposed to be.
Sure.
And we make between 800 to 900 parts a day. And there's over 10,000 different variables that contribute to the quality of the product.
Sure.
So we do the dimensional checks to make sure that the product dimensionally, in terms of its size, geometry, and everything, is what it's supposed to be. And then also, as part of quality manager, I also head the supplier quality assurance, or supplier liaison. So all the services, all the products that the company purchases, obviously we purchase from suppliers. We need to ensure that, it is of good quality. And if the company has an issue with the quality of the product, they say, quality manager, please make a plan. Speak to the supplier and make sure that, they fix whatever they need to fix as quickly as possible. So it's multiple hats in the role. Hence, the big team that I work with. But fundamentally, the goal is to have a happy customer, which is obviously in Germany and in the US. And we must also remember that meeting our quality objectives has a direct implication to the profitability of the organization.
Yes.
If you are making 50% scrap, that means 50% losses. If you're making 5% or 2%, that is good.
That's good, yeah.
So you have quite a lot of a broad spectrum of responsibilities and roles and hats that you have to wear in this role.
What is the skill that you need to have to manage a big team like that?
I think, again, the issue or the topic of establishing relationships, for me, I cannot state that enough, to be honest. In a team of 54 people, different individuals, different backgrounds, different age groups, you arrive there, you're one of the youngest in the organization, if not the youngest in the team. And they report to you. And you need to be able to to relate with people to get the best out of them. Sometimes you don't need to be an expert in something, but you need to have an inquisitive mind to want to understand. And people generally are willing to give information if you give them time, if you relate with them well. You obviously need the technical aptitude. You need to know what you're doing. But when it comes to man management, really relating with people is gold. You master that. People will want to give you their best.
I love that. I really love that. So, okay, my question is running away. You caught me off guard there. But so now you're done. You're executive. So I want to ask how what is it that you have learned or of yourself now as a quality manager, but I think maybe you can also spell it from your 9 years working there.
Yes.
And when is it going to be next? 10 years?
10 years is going to be next year, August.
Okay, so you still got,
Yes.
It's still good. It's still good.
Yes.
So almost a decade now.
Almost
So
a decade.
what is it that you have learned about yourself? And maybe the follow-up question is, what is it that you did? I think maybe you might have touched on it, but maybe if you can just maybe go to the micro side of it, just what is it that you did to get to where you are now? So I think for now is what is it that you learned about yourself throughout this process?
I touched on it a little bit about my upbringing, and the confidence that was imparted to me by my parents. And I think over the past couple of years, the one thing that I've really learned is the influence and the power of being confident in yourself.
Sure.
If you believe in yourself, things can work out. No one is going to free willingly give you confidence and give you that self-belief.
Sure.
No one can easily do that. You need to it needs to come from within.
Yeah.
It needs to come from yourself. So that is one of the things that I sort of see and see it in play through other individuals. You find someone who's very, very smart, a master in his field, but they possibly lack self-confidence, and that restricts them tremendously.
Yeah. There's a certain growth that you cannot reach without that confidence.
You won't.
Sure.
You won't. Then the flip side, you get individuals some individuals from over the ocean there, of different pigments. You find that they don't know a lot, but the confidence, my friend, through the roof.
Yeah.
And English is their mother tongue, so they can play around with English, and they reach, high positions. Because confidence. You can see it, through their walk. That this confidence is oozing, and it opens up a lot of doors for.
Sure.
So, be confident. Be confident in yourself. I've seen it through me. I've seen it through a lot of individuals, a lot of colleagues, and see how it plays throughout their career. That's the one thing. The other thing, it's sort of like it's knowledge that sort of I got stumbled across, which is this topic of creating relationships. And I think once I learned it, I put a lot of emphasis
Sure.
on it. The third thing is, and I think it's something that I learned more recently, is about taking care of yourself physically.
Okay.
Physically.
Hence,
It's
yeah.
so crucial
Sure.
because your performance, your career can only go as far as your body can take you. If you don't take care of your body, if you don't take care of your mind, essentially you're imposing restrictions on yourself.
I like that.
And in my role, which can be very stressful, I mean, a couple of years ago, I had a health issue due to stress. And for me, that was the wake up call.
Sure.
And now, 2 years later, we're working consistently on making sure that the mind is okay, the body is okay, and the results you can see from themselves for yourself at work, and then also even at home. So you need to marry the work-life balance.
Yeah, Mr. Mothiba came with some bars there. The reason I'm saying that is I think I texted you very late in the morning, early in the morning rather.
Yes.
We were coming from a men's conference type of thing. So we're actually talking about that, how to deal with stress.
Yes.
And how stress actually causes a lot of diseases long term.
Yes.
Because of the way that we're living in our time.
Absolutely.
How people deal with stress back then, it was different to how we deal with stress now.
Yeah.
And
also, maybe the stress there was a little bit less. Remember, we have laptops, we have cell phones, we have media.
But with them, they could chill under a fire.
Yes.
And they were still in touch with nature. And it sort of reduced a bit.
Absolutely.
And I mean, they were also mobile. They were not driving to work.
Yes.
You just have to go do something to buy a burger instead of walking. I have to drive there.
Or Uber.
Exactly.
Right? Uber Eats, whatever.
Uber Eats, you see? So you realize that we're not doing any activity. So I actually love that idea of, and I think you're the first person to actually bring that up. And I think it's something which I think going on, it will be important to have the workers to take care of themselves.
Absolutely.
So bodily, mindfully.
So crucial.
Like you said, it increases your productivity.
Yes.
I really love that.
And it goes back to what we spoke about a little bit earlier about routines, right?
Yes.
I mentioned throughout
having
studying,
sure.
I'd study, go to the gym.
Sure.
Then, take care of your body. When you don't take care of your body, it has almost a direct consequence to your work. Believe it or not, you become sluggish, you become moody. You become snappy. You forget things, and so on and so forth.
Sure.
But when you take care of your body, you're a lot more sharper. You can pick up certain things. Your mind is more active. You can brainstorm much better.
Yeah.
You can think outside the box much better. So it's something that we often miss because we don't normally prioritize that. But it's so crucial. It's so crucial.
That's so beautiful. I think maybe I forgot my second question. I don't know if you remember it.
We've been sharing. We've been talking.
Okay, I don't know my second question, but okay. If I forgot it, if I remembered, I will ask it.
Sure.
So let's get into the study, right? So you're studying law?
I'm studying law. I'm in my 4th year now. It took much longer than what it should because I started in 2015.
Okay.
Mid-year, and it's through UNISA, so open distance learning, and I take modules as per the workload that I have and what happens in life as well.
Sure.
So sometimes I'll do 3 modules, sometimes 4 over a 6-month period. But yes, I'm now in my 4th year, and we're planning on finishing next year.
And how is it going?
It's going. It has been beneficial because you definitely stand out.
Okay.
There's not a lot of engineers who are studying law.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Which part are you gonna major on?
So
Defense
I'm
or
initially, when I started, I was very interested in the criminal uh,
criminal law?
criminal procedure, criminal law. But as my career developed, I'm and also because you do all the modules in the LLB, I had a strong liking of the commercial aspects, company law in particular, and I think it will marry well with my career.
Makes
or
sense,
where
yeah.
my career is going. What we are seeing nowadays in industry is, particularly in South Africa, not so much internationally, but in South Africa, where you find people with technical qualifications marrying that with more commercial administrative qualifications, and you find that a lot. If you look at, if you're a student, research, on captains of industry, big companies who make bread, look at the board of directors, look at the management, look at the qualifications they have.
Okay.
You find someone is an electrical engineer, he did postgraduate diploma in business management, he did an MBA, from electrical engineering to MBA. Same thing. You go to the mining industry. Someone did mining engineering or mechanical engineering, but they branched off, did something in BCom, accounting, and whatever. Because think about it: you're a captain of the industry. You're a CEO of a big company in mining or in manufacturing, whatever. Yes, as a CEO, you need to know how the product is made, but you're running a business, so you need business skills. Where are you going to get those business skills?
Yeah.
You need to get the competence.
Yeah, sure.
You need to study for it. So it's the same. It's sort of the same thing that I have in mind. If you want to reach, higher levels, you need to broaden your scope, your spectrum.
Sure.
Never get tired of learning, no matter what it is. And also, I think the law and engineering, in terms of structure, I personally find a lot of similarities. Someone who comes to a lawyer has a problem, 9 times out of 10.
Sure.
An engineer gets approached when there's a problem.
Yeah.
There's a sequence that we follow to solve a problem in engineering.
Sure.
There's a sequence that gets followed
Is
to
there a
solve a
sequence as
problem
well?
in law. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a structure. You need to understand, you need to research, you need to and make certain arguments and reference your arguments and prove your case.
Sure.
There's, in terms of, I'm talking now overview.
Sure.
You have systems to solve the problem. You have, but it just broadens your mind.
I think I love that, and there's the way that you're moving, which is commendable.
You try.
No, I mean in terms of like you're saying that you're a mechanical engineer and you're doing law, and for when you said law and criminal law, I was like, okay, criminal law is like you have to change your whole life completely.
Yeah, no.
So corporate law might be the best option for you to actually marry what you're doing. And I mean, you're already an executive, so which is good to it like speaks to each other in a sense. And I think that even the examples that you made in terms of looking at other what do you call this? Executives in other companies, that's what they're doing. So I think I love that a lot, and it's something which, okay, I've not met a lot of people who actually talk like that. So that's why I said I actually love the way that you are building your career, which is making sure that you're getting to the point. Because someone will say, okay, how does someone really becomes a CEO of a company? And you're like, okay, I just study engineering and I'm done.
No.
But that's not how it works.
No, it's not how it works.
And even how to become a CEO is not the same interview that you get. it's like a different change.
It's a different.
So I really love that, and I think this almost brings us to the conclusion of our conversation. And Stega Podcast, I think in its essence, we celebrate our workers, and
Yes.
yeah, we are rooting for you.
Thank
Just
you
keep
very
on
much.
pushing. Just keep on pushing. And in closing, I just want you to advise someone who's listening out there. And I need to work on this question. Just advise someone who's listening
Advise
to the
someone.
podcast. Yeah.
So we had a wonderful conversation, and for me, the one thing I'd like to impart, number one, the importance of being confident in yourself. And there's a lot of underlying elements in eventually being a confident person. Understanding your strength, understanding your weaknesses, working on your weaknesses, selling your strengths. That's number one. Number two, form relationships. Form decent relationships. Be a good person with good intentions and relate with people. Number three, if you want to attain something, put in the time to understand what the requirements are to attain that level that you want to reach. So you want to be an engineer? Do the research. What does it mean? What does that person actually do? What are the requirements? What are the challenges? Do I really want to be? You want to be a manager? Same thing. Do you want to be a CEO? Same thing. You want to be a businessman? Same thing. Put in the time, put in the research. And that's the only way I think you can I think that's a recipe.
Yeah.
That's the recipe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate that. This was nice.
Indeed.
And I know we have not touched a lot on the work. There's still a lot more that we can get into. But I think this is for a start. It gets the conversation going.
Yes.
And it educates someone who's listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
And definitely gonna have another one.
Yes.
So just
Absolutely.
call you around. I think maybe in August. If you know, you know. In August, we're gonna call you, and then we're gonna have another one.
Yes.
But thank you so much, sir, for
Thank
coming
you.
through. It was really nice having you.
It's been a great pleasure, and I must commend the podcast as well. What you guys are doing is really exceptional, and I think your target market can only be enriched by continuing to follow, by continuing to subscribe, by continuing to listen. So really great work, guys. This is exceptional, and we definitely wish the podcast, a lot of success.
On that bombshell. Thank you so much.
Thank you.